Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of March 11th through the 17th of 2024. All right, so this week we have a bit of a quiet week in terms of astrological aspects and sign changes. I would say it's still an important week in the sense that we did just start a new lunar cycle last Sunday. And so coming into this week, it's really good to set some new intentions and slowly build some momentum for the lunar month. This is really in regards to the fact that the sun has now shifted into Pisces, and so this does start the yearly theme around cultivating what is more important to us on a soul level and working on things like our spiritual or mental health, and again, just being a little bit more in tune with our soul, going with the flow. These kinds of things can be great during this time of the year. So as we get to the end of the week, so there's no major aspects until the weekend. And when we get to the end of the week, we will be in the first quarter moon. And so that's where it's really good to start to challenge ourselves to implement, and I would say with that receptive Pisces energy. But the week closes out with the sun passing over Neptune, which is very much the same thing. Neptune is that Pisces, it's in Pisces. And so definitely some new beginnings this week in that regard. And maybe over the weekend, quite literally, some new things are rising in regards to what is important to us on a soul level. And again, cultivating some of that spiritual and mental health. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, March 11th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. Unfortunately, mainstream does not use the visible sky any longer. And so if you are new to this channel, and especially if you're noticing some of the sign placements are different, then definitely check out the link down below for more information on true sidereal astrology. All right, so let's do a bit of a recap. As you can see here, quiet week in the context of aspects. Usually this is where we'll see the aspects, which is the configurations between the planets and how they're maybe catalyzing things or shifting things in our life. A lot of that happened last week. Last week we had a lot of sign changes and a lot of aspects. As you can see, there's even some aspects coming off of Sunday there into this week. But it doesn't mean that this week isn't important. Of course, we did just start that new lunar month. And so coming into this week, we're still very much in that new moon energy. The new moon was right in between Aquarius and Pisces. And so this is really about starting the new lunar month in regards to now accessing more of our soul, which is the Piscean side of it and where the sun and Mercury are. And we'll be continuing for over the next month plus, and even longer once we factor in Venus and Mars, once Mars eventually gets there for the coming months, really. So more receptivity, more soul connection. But the fact that it did happen quite close to Aquarius and the fact that Venus just entered Aquarius is a reminder that it is still good to focus on our future visions and anything that is very forward thinking like that. So a good time usually for aspirations and sometimes thinking about contributing to our future or the collective future. So it can emphasize things like the world, future affairs, even community or friends where we might want to contribute to things greater than ourselves. And because of that, it can be quite an innovative and progressive sort of energy. So good to get in touch with that innovative side as well. So that's definitely still going on even as we come out of the new moon because, of course, the new cycle started at the end of Aquarius, but Venus will be in Aquarius, of course, all week as she has just entered into there last week. And then Mars will go into there the following week, next week. So still a lot of Aquarius energy, a lot to doing with that visionary side of things as well. Now, it's worth mentioning here in this recap that Mars is still in Capricorn, will be finishing Capricorn this week. And so there is still that tinge of patience and a long-term energy that's needed. And this is especially the case when we're talking about our drives, our goals, our actions, which is what Mars represents. So still being patient and seeing how we can align the short-term needs with our long-term needs is definitely still in play this week as Mars finishes Capricorn. So that's where we've got a lot of the placements coming into the week here. So let's go ahead and start with Monday. So this week we'll be placing more of an emphasis on the moon's placement. The moon will be, of course, zipping through the zodiac as she normally does. But since we don't have any major aspects, then it's going to be placing more of an emphasis on the moon's position. So the moon will be in Pisces for the first couple of days, Monday and Tuesday, again, activating the new moon and activating particularly the Pisces side of that. So the first couple of days are particularly good for a bit of, again, that receptivity. So Pisces is the connection to our soul, we could say. It's about viewing life through a more soul-fulfilling lens. And so it's a great time to be doing things that are not only more soul-fulfilling, but that are good for our soul health, or what you might call our mental or spiritual health. And so great for this. And all in all, I would say just being more receptive to life, connecting with our intuition as well, connecting with our imagination perhaps. And if it involves relationships, a bit of that receptivity as well. So compassion, acceptance, understanding can be good. So again, connecting to the more yin, receptive, and fundamentally soul-guided aspects of ourself is definitely the main theme, not only these first couple of days, but I would say for the week at large. Now, as we do get into Wednesday, the moon will be in Aries on Wednesday for the full day there. And so Wednesday could be a good day for maybe some of the action and initiative that can come out of any new beginnings. Now, again, we are just slowly building momentum in this lunar month. But on Wednesday, if there's anything that requires initiative, or you feel like it's a good time to, cultivate some of that initiative, the astrology is saying that it might be great to align with that. We've had a lot of activity in Aries lately with Jupiter and Uranus here. So we've learned a lot about ourselves, I would say, this past year with Jupiter here. For the past 5 years, let's say, there's been a lot of accessing more of our individuality in the sense of our identity and who we are and what we want. And so that can definitely be activated on Wednesday with the moon passing over these planets. So how can we continue to learn about ourselves? How can we be open-minded about our actions and what we might want to pursue in our life regarding goals or initiatives? And how can we access more of that true self? And in the case of Aries, more of that independence as well. So great day there, I would say, for those kinds of fiery things. Now, as we do get to the Wednesday time, the moon will shift into Taurus, where the moon will be all the way up until Sunday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Moon does favor Taurus, does like to be here. It is the constellation that the moon's exalted in, meaning the moon's comfortable. And so here we could be enjoying a bit of the more grounding side of things. Taurus is the reminder to connect to the more stable aspects of ourselves and also of life. So for ourselves, it's a great time for connecting with our inner beingness, our inner groundedness, so self-worth, self-value, self-belief, connect to our inner resources like our natural talents, our natural abilities, okay, that anchoring there. But externally, it's a great time for connecting to the grounding elements of life like nature or the sensual life, such as good meals or aromas or massages or anything more in the physical, sensual world that helps us feel grounded. And so a great time for cultivating that inner and outer groundedness, and I would say there's definitely a support to do that with the moon here. Now, once we do get to Saturday specifically, we will be in the first quarter moon, and that is where we do come to our first challenges of the lunar cycle. So it's important to recognize that this weekend is really good to challenge ourselves, and if there was any new intentions from this new moon that started last weekend, it's really good to implement, it's really good to integrate, it's really good to take action towards. Here, I would say specifically in regards to Gemini, so the moon will shift into Gemini on Sunday, and this is where we do come to the very different energies, right? Because we've got all this soul-guided Pisces energy, and once the moon does shift into Gemini on Sunday, this is more on the practical. So Gemini is more about the everyday practical pragmatic sort of life. So it deals with more of the things that we could be implementing in the sense of what's working in our day-to-day routines. It rules our communications. It's all about synergizing and putting things together, making sense of things, being very left brain, very practical in nature. So how can we do that while at the same time connect with our soul, right? And we might say that these are two very different in the sense that maybe Pisces represents more of the unconscious or the spiritual self, and Gemini represents more of the conscious or ego or mind, the more practical mind sense. And so how can we integrate these two very different energies, the spiritual with the practical, and perhaps the soul with the mind? And in this way, it does become very constructive. So anything that we can, again, challenge ourselves to do there could be a great day for doing both things, our practical life in a receptive way, and maybe spirituality in a more practical way, right? So melding the spiritual and practical worlds together on Sunday and even into next week, I think is fantastic and a great way of challenging ourselves during that first quarter moon. Now, the last thing this week is that the sun will pass over Neptune on Sunday, and so that does start a new beginning with the Sun-Neptune cycle. And I would say here it's really just another step in what we've been talking about regarding that receptivity. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, the planet of Pisces, and so here we could notice some new beginnings. So I do think over the weekend, anything that you do, maybe you want to start, or maybe just is coming into your life and that you want to facilitate, that will lead to greater soul fulfillment, will lead to a greater connection with, that inner self and maybe the flows of life, right? Or anything that brings more peace into your life fundamentally, as of course, connecting to our soul and the flows of life produce more peace and spiritual well-being. So anything on that intuitive, spiritual, and even creative level can be great. And that's going to be a new beginning there for us collectively on Sunday. All right, so everyone, that is the week in a nutshell. Not a whole lot to talk about in terms of splitting these things up, and I would say very straightforward in terms of the overall theme. So we've got the new moon from last weekend. We're just slowly coming into a new fresh lunar month, slowly building momentum. The theme is certainly around receptivity. We're seeing that all week long. As we do get to the weekend, then it's good to challenge ourselves with integrating that in the more practical sort of way that both Gemini and that later Taurus helps us do. And perhaps noticing some new beginnings there over around Sunday with that greater connection with our soul. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet gotten your True Sidereal report, there's a link down below for that. It's absolutely free. Type in your birth details. You get a free report for all of your major placements using this visible sky. And of course, if you do want the full report, there's a link for that as well after you get your free report, which you just look at on the website. So do check that out if you haven't yet. But again, have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.